Myra was radiant that night. The lights of the elegant Los Angeles restaurant danced to the soft rhythm of the background music, creating a perfect atmosphere for celebrating her anniversary with Ethan. They were seated at a candlelit table, the soft glow reflecting on their faces. She looked at him, admiring the charm that had always fascinated her. Ethan was charismatic, and his smile could light up even the cloudiest days. "You know, I never imagined we'd get this far." Ethan began, holding her hand across the table. "Being by your side has been the best part of my life. I promise to do everything I can to ensure we have an amazing future together." Myra felt her heart race. His words were like music to her ears, enveloping her in a sense of security and love. "I feel that too, Ethan. Every day with you is special. I can't wait to see what the future holds for us," she replied, smiling with a dreamy look. Ethan leaned in closer, his eyes shining with sincerity. "I want you to know that I'm fully committed to us. Nothing will separate us." He paused, looking deeply into her eyes as if he wanted to etch that moment into his memory. "You are the woman of my life, Myra. I love you." The atmosphere was perfect, and Myra allowed herself to be swept away by those declarations. A part of her, deep down, knew that life was unpredictable. But that night, everything seemed just as it should be. They toasted, and the wine glasses clinked softly. The dinner continued with laughter and stories, and the connection between them felt stronger than ever. However, as soon as they got home, the atmosphere of happiness was abruptly interrupted. Myra's phone vibrated in her bag, and she picked it up, curious. When she looked at the screen, she noticed an anonymous message. Her heart raced as she read the words, "Be careful with Ethan. He's not who he seems to be." Myra frowned, feeling a wave of confusion. It was just a strange message, perhaps a bad joke. "Oh, it must be some troll on the internet," she said to herself, deciding to ignore the notification. Nothing can ruin this night. But as she lay down, the message kept echoing in her mind. She tossed and turned in bed, trying to convince herself that she was just being paranoid. Ethan wasn't perfect, but she couldn't imagine that he had dark secrets. It was a night of celebration, and she didn't want to ruin everything with negative thoughts. The next morning, the sun shone brightly through the curtains, and Myra got up determined to leave her suspicions behind. She made coffee and sat down to plan a perfect day together. But amidst the preparations, something caught her attention, a photo on social media. It was an image of Ethan at an event, surrounded by a group of people, and beside him was a woman with whom he seemed to have a significant connection. Myra's stomach turned. The woman had a warm smile, and the two were so close that it seemed they were sharing an intimate moment. What was going on? The message from the previous night returned to her mind like a persistent echo. On impulse, she decided she needed to confront him. It wasn't just a matter of jealousy. Something was wrong. When Ethan arrived for breakfast, Myra was nervous but determined to seek the truth. "Ethan, I saw a photo of you with a woman. Who is she?" Ethan's gaze narrowed, but he quickly composed himself, as if preparing a speech. "Oh, that? She's just a work colleague. We were at an event and took some photos. It means nothing," he replied with a smile that wasn't convincing. "But the way you were together?" Myra hesitated, insecurity taking over. "Myra, you know I'm committed to you. Don't let insecurity consume you. I love you, and you're the only one I want," he said with a firmness that made her hesitate. "Okay," she murmured, but in truth, doubt was beginning to take root in her heart. The previous night and the anonymous message seemed only the beginning of a storm that until then, she didn't know she was about to face. Myra watched Ethan from across the room, her heart tight as he typed quickly on his phone. It was a behavior she was beginning to find suspicious, but she tried not to be overcome by distrust. Maybe it's just work, she thought, trying to convince herself that her love was still strong enough to overcome any doubts. However, the feeling of unease wouldn't leave her alone. "Hi, love. Are you okay?" She approached, trying to keep her voice natural. "Of course, just answering a quick email. Something important," he replied without looking at her, his attention completely focused on the screen. Myra forced a smile, but the tightness in her chest only grew. That night, as she prepared for bed, her mind couldn't rest. Ethan's constant messages, the unexplained outings. Something was wrong. The fear of being deceived consumed her, and to distract herself, she decided to call Sarah, her best friend. "Hi, Myra. How are you?" Sarah answered with an upbeat voice, but quickly sensed the somber tone in Myra's response. "Actually, not so well. I don't know what to think about Ethan. He's been acting strangely lately," she confessed, feeling a lump in her throat. "Strangely how?" Sarah asked, curious. "He gets a lot of messages and has been going out without telling me. I just feel like he's hiding something from me," Myra replied, her voice almost breaking. "You need to talk to him. Don't let insecurity consume you. What do you think he could be doing?" Sarah suggested, hoping to calm her friend. "I don't know, but I heard rumors about someone named Claire at a party we recently attended. People were commenting on how close they seemed. And now, this," Myra confessed, frustration evident in her words. Sarah paused. "If you think he's cheating on you, you need to find out the truth. Don't let this become a ghost in your head." Determined to find answers, Myra decided that at the next company party, she would pay attention to Ethan and Claire. When the day arrived, the atmosphere was filled with laughter and lively conversations. The loud music and smiles hid the insecurities Myra felt in her heart. She spotted Ethan, and beside him was Claire, a woman with long, wavy hair, laughing at what seemed to be an inside joke. The sight made her uneasy. "Hi, love. Shall we get something to drink?" Myra asked, trying to disguise the tension in her voice. "Sure. Just a minute. I need to talk to Claire about a presentation," Ethan replied, and before she could protest, he walked away. Myra took a deep breath, watching from a distance. She felt her heart race as she saw Ethan lean in to whisper something in Claire's ear, making her laugh. The scene bothered her, and insecurity grew like a shadow around her. "He can't be doing this," she murmured to herself, but the words sounded empty. She wondered if she was just being paranoid, but the impulse to investigate the truth overwhelmed her. That night, while the guests danced and enjoyed themselves, Myra decided she could no longer feel this way. As soon as Ethan walked away again, she grabbed her phone and started searching for information about Claire on social media. It was then that, in a quick search, she came across a profile that seemed to belong to Ethan, but that she had never seen before. There, photos of trips and moments with Claire were posted frequently. Each image was like a stab in her heart. No, Myra repeated, trying to process the revelation. What she was seeing was a confirmation of her worst suspicions. With a tumultuous mind, she decided she needed to confront him. When Ethan finally returned, his smile faded when he saw the expression on Myra's face. "What happened? You look pale," he said, concerned. "We need to talk, Ethan. Now," she demanded, her voice firm despite the internal turmoil. Ethan frowned, noticing the seriousness in her voice. "Sure, what's going on? I saw your photos with Claire. What's going on between you two?" The accusation was out there, and Ethan's gaze shifted, his confidence faltering. "I don't know what you're talking about, Myra. Claire is just a work friend. You're being paranoid," he replied, trying to deflect the situation. "Paranoid? I saw the photos, Ethan. You can't just blame me for this." The indignation grew inside her, and the truth she feared more than anything was now in front of her, in all its harshness. "Look, I have nothing to hide. You need to trust me," he insisted. But the coldness in his eyes was all Myra needed to understand that she was alone in this battle. Myra was in a state of despair and confusion. The revelation that Ethan might be leading a double life consumed her. To try to find some clarity amidst the whirlwind of emotions, she decided to seek support from her best friend, Sarah. They met at a cozy cafe, where the aroma of fresh coffee and the warmth of the conversations around them created a comfortable environment, but Myra felt like she was in a maze with no way out. "You can't go on like this, Myra," Sarah said, looking her friend in the eye. "You need to find out the truth. We can't let him control your life this way." "But what if I'm wrong? What if this is just my mind creating monsters where there are none?" Myra replied, feeling torn between hope and doubt. Sarah sighed, her concern evident. "Sometimes we need to face the monsters to find out if they really exist. Let's investigate. You're not alone in this." With renewed determination, Myra and Sarah began investigating Ethan's life. They delved into social media and mutual contacts, each discovery another brick in building the truth. After a few hours of searching, They found an old post on a social network where Ethan and Claire appeared together at an event. Ethan's confident smile beside Claire was like a punch to Myra's stomach. "Look at this, Myra," Sarah said, pointing at the phone screen. "This is from months ago. They seem pretty close." I can't believe he deceived me like this," Myra murmured, feeling her heart tighten. "Why didn't he tell me? What else is he hiding from me?" Sarah, sensing her friend's pain, placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. "You deserve to know the truth. Let's go after it. We can't let him keep living this lie." With a new focus, they continued to dig into Ethan's past. Each revelation felt like a stab, but Myra knew she had to keep going. With each new piece of information, the image of a perfect Ethan began to crumble, and the woman she had been before began to rise again, even if slowly. One night, while reviewing old videos of events Ethan had attended, Myra found a clip from a gala event. The video showed Ethan dancing with Claire, the chemistry between them palpable. "Look at this, Sarah. He was so happy, and I had no idea what was going on." "This is simply unacceptable," Sarah said, outraged. "You need to confront him. It's not fair for you to live like this, in uncertainty." Myra felt a wave of anger and sadness mix. "What if he tells me it's just a friendship? What will I do? I'm so confused." "Then you need to be sure. Don't let him escape the truth. You have to value yourself, Myra. You deserve a love that doesn't hide secrets," Sarah replied, firm in her conviction. Myra's insecurity began to transform into a quiet determination. She realized that the search for truth wasn't just about Ethan, but about herself. She wanted to free herself from the chains that bound her to a love that seemed more like an illusion than a reality. That night, a storm began to form outside, with lightning illuminating the sky and thunder echoing like the internal battle unfolding within her. It was time to act. With her heart racing, Myra decided she would confront Ethan. The thought of confronting him made her anxious, but the need to know the truth outweighed the fear. "I can't let him control me like this," she murmured to herself as the rain began to fall, as if reflecting her tears. "I need to know what he really feels for me, if he feels anything at all." But when she decided to call Ethan, the phone just rang with no answer. Desperate, she felt a sinking feeling. "Where are you, Ethan?" She thought as the storm intensified, bringing with it a sense that something was about to change. His absence urged her to believe that he might have fled, not only from the storm, but also from his responsibilities and the truth that needed to be revealed. Myra's heart was racing. She was on the edge of an emotional abyss, and that night could be the last time she felt so vulnerable. But at the same time, it was also the opportunity to finally reclaim her power and seek the freedom she so longed for. Myra woke up to a sunny day, feeling the gentle breeze coming through the window of her studio. The sunlight illuminated the white walls, now covered in colorful brushstrokes, each reflecting her emotions. Since Ethan had disappeared, she had dedicated herself to herself, seeking ways to express the pain that consumed her. Painting had become her refuge, a way to channel the confusion into something beautiful. She got up, put on a light blouse and sweatpants, and went to the balcony. With a coffee in hand, she watched the birds flying freely and thought about how she longed for the same freedom. The sound of the brush scratching the canvas brought her back inside, where her creations awaited her. Each work was a silent conversation between her soul and the world, and as she spent hours painting, she felt her insecurities dissipate. That afternoon, Myra decided to attend a painting class that was being held at the local gallery. It was an opportunity to learn new techniques and perhaps meet people who also shared her passion for art. Upon arrival, she was greeted by a welcoming and energetic atmosphere. The walls were filled with works by local artists, and the smell of fresh paint hung in the air. As the class began, she allowed herself to be carried away by the creative atmosphere. However, what really caught her attention was Lucas, the instructor, an artist with deep eyes and a gentle smile. He had a special way of communicating with his students, encouraging them to explore their emotions through art. Myra found herself captivated by his approach and by the way he believed in each person's potential. Art is the purest expression of what we feel. Don't be afraid to expose yourself, Myra. Every brushstroke is a part of you, Lucas said as he walked among the students, offering tips and words of encouragement. Myra smiled, feeling warmth in her chest. It was as if he knew exactly what she needed to hear. After the class, Lucas approached her. "You have talent. Your art has a depth that many can't reach," he commented, observing the canvas Myra had worked on. "Thank you. I'm just trying to find my way," she replied, a little shy. "And you are. Every step you take is important. If you need someone to talk to about your ideas, I'll be here," he offered before walking away. Myra left the gallery with new energy. Lucas's friendship brought a freshness to her life, as if a new light had been lit. She began to spend more time at the gallery, not just for classes, but also to talk to Lucas about art, dreams, and her insecurities. He helped her see the beauty in small things, and with each meeting, Myra felt stronger and more confident. One night, while working on a new painting, Myra received a notification on her phone. It was a message from Ethan, something she didn't expect. Her heart raced. He said he wanted to talk, that he missed her, and that he was willing to change. The words were sweet, but the pain of betrayal was still fresh in her memory. "What are you going to do?" Lucas asked, who was visiting her that night. He noticed the confused expression on her face. "I don't know. He hurt me so much. Can he really change?" Myra replied, looking at the blank canvas in front of her. "Only you can decide that. But remember, you deserve someone who values you. Don't let the past define your future," Lucas said, with a serious look. His words echoed in Myra's mind. She remembered all the times Ethan had broken her trust, how the illusion of a perfect love had imprisoned her. The idea of reconnecting with him made her anxious, but at the same time, the hope of true love began to sprout within her, something she had never considered before. "I need time to think," she replied, feeling torn between what her heart desired and what reason told her. Lucas nodded, understanding her internal struggle. That night, Myra lay down with a restless mind, reflecting on what she really wanted. Ethan's message shook her, but Lucas's presence in her life began to signal a new possibility. She was beginning to realize that true happiness might be within her reach if only she had the courage to free herself from the past. Myra was nervous as she waited for Ethan at a cozy cafe, the place where they used to go on Sunday afternoons. The soft light filtering through the windows seemed to contrast with the storm of emotions that overwhelmed her. She looked at the clock, anxiety growing with every passing second. What did she expect from that conversation? Part of her still wanted him to be the man he promised to be, while the other part knew it was just an illusion. When Ethan finally arrived, he was smiling as if nothing had happened. "Hi, Myra. You look as beautiful as always," he said, pulling out a chair to sit down. She took a deep breath, trying to find the right words. "Ethan, we need to talk. I can't live like this anymore, with so many doubts." He leaned forward, his gaze persuasive. "I know things have been complicated, but I've changed. I promise I'll do my best to be the man you deserve. Let's leave the past behind." Myra looked into his eyes, searching for something that would convince her. "Do you really think that's enough? You betrayed me, Ethan. I can't just forget that." He hesitated, the confidence he once displayed beginning to waver. I made mistakes, yes, but who doesn't? The important thing is that I want to make things right." "Make things right?" Myra's voice came out harsher than she intended. "Do you really believe you can fix what you did just with empty words? I'm not the same anymore. I'm not that woman you can manipulate." Ethan was silent for a moment, the smile slowly fading from his face. "Myra, I did what I did because I felt lost. Claire means nothing to me. You're everything I've ever wanted." "Everything you've ever wanted?" She shook her head, a bitter laugh escaping her. "You don't understand, do you? Claire is pregnant, Ethan. You can't just sweep that under the rug and expect me to believe you've changed." Ethan's expression turned into a mix of confusion and desperation. "How do you know that? No one was supposed to know yet." "I have my sources," Myra responded, unable to hold back. "The truth is, you never cared about what I felt. I was just a pawn in your game." He stared at her, frustration evident. "You're being unfair. I loved you. I still love you." "Love isn't just a word, Ethan. Love is respect, it's honesty, and you gave me none of that." The conversation took a dark turn, and Myra felt the sense of loss enveloping her. But there was a growing determination within her. The pain she felt was real, but it was also a sign that she was breaking free. I can't do this anymore. I can't let you keep hurting me, even indirectly. Ethan, realizing he was losing the battle, tried to appeal to her emotions. Please, Mara, don't do this. I can't imagine my life without you. You already did, Ethan. You've already lived without me, and it seems you did quite well, she replied, her gaze firm. It's time for me to put myself first. I love myself more than any toxic relationship. I deserve more than this. He was silent, his pride wounded, and the reality of his actions beginning to sink in. But what about us? There is no us anymore, Ethan. I'm stepping out of this story. It's time for me to move on. Mara stood up, her heart pounding, but with a sense of relief. She was breaking free. Mara, he called, but she was already walking away, determined to leave it all behind. The sun was shining outside, and for the first time in a long time, she felt hope blossoming in her chest. It was time for a new beginning. Mara was nervous, but also excited. The art exhibition she was hosting with Lucas was the culmination of months of hard work and self-discovery. The gallery walls were adorned with her works, each telling a part of her story of overcoming. The vibrant colors reflected her journey, the shadows of pain, the shades of hope, and the bursts of joy. She looked at her creations with pride, feeling that each brushstroke had freed her a little more from the chains Ethan had placed on her life. You look amazing, Myra, Lucas commented, observing her from the side with an encouraging smile. He seemed genuinely happy for her, which was a stark contrast to how Ethan had treated her. People are loving your works. This is your moment. Thank you, Lucas. I really feel like I'm finally being myself, Myra replied, her eyes shining with emotion. She was ready to face the world, with no more lies or illusions. However, the gallery's atmosphere changed when Ethan walked in, with his usual charm, trying to appear nonchalant. He looked around, quickly noticing Myra and Lucas's presence. Ethan's expression was a mix of surprise and determination, as if he was ready to win Myra back at any cost. He walked towards her, trying to capture her attention. Myra, you look radiant, he said, his smile somewhat forced. I knew you had talent, but this is something extraordinary. She looked at him, her heart pounding in her chest. The anger and pain he had caused were still fresh in her memory, but there was also a new strength within her. Ethan, it's not what you think. I'm not here to listen to your empty promises, she replied, keeping her voice firm. At that moment, Claire entered the gallery, her presence as intense as a storm. She seemed determined, and Myra noticed how her gaze met Ethan's. Claire walked towards them, and the atmosphere became palpable. Ethan, we need to talk. Now, she said, her voice full of determination. Claire, this isn't the time. Ethan began, but Claire interrupted him. No, Ethan, it's exactly the time. You can't keep hiding the truth, she said, looking at Myra with a sincerity that surprised her. Myra, I need you to know that everything he did to you wasn't just betrayal, but manipulation. He always had a plan, and you were in the middle of it. Claire's words echoed in the gallery. The guests, who had been admiring the works until then, now turned to the triangle formed by Myra, Ethan, and Claire. The atmosphere was tense, and Myra felt the weight of the truth settling in. Ethan, you can't keep doing this. People deserve to know who you really are, Claire continued, her voice louder now. You're not the man everyone believes you to be. Your lies need to be exposed. Claire's indignation seemed to awaken something in those present. Murmurs began to rise, and Myra felt a wave of empowerment. It was as if, in a moment, she had been freed from a spell. Ethan, who had always appeared so confident, now seemed vulnerable and lost. Myra, please, don't believe her, Ethan pleaded, trying to regain some control over the situation. She's just trying to manipulate you again. I'm not the one manipulating, Ethan. You know that, Claire replied, looking directly into his eyes. You destroyed Myra's life, and now it's time to face the consequences. Myra was paralyzed, but her mind was clear. She turned to the crowd that surrounded her, and with a strong and determined voice said, I'm no longer a victim. I'm here to show that the truth always prevails. Ethan may have tried to control me, but I'm stronger than he ever imagined. The guests began to applaud, and Myra felt a wave of relief and liberation. Lucas was by her side, proud, and she realized that she had people around her who truly cared. Ethan, on the other hand, was retreating, his facade of confidence crumbling in the face of the public exposure of his lies. Myra looked at Lucas, and a smile formed on her lips. The freedom she had sought was finally within her reach, and the gallery's proposal became further confirmation that her future was bright. She turned, ready to move on, without looking back. Reflecting on a love that was sweet but turned bitter with lies can be painful, but it's essential for personal growth. Have you ever stopped to think about how lies can affect the way you see love and trust? How your experiences with disillusionment can help shape a new perspective on relationships? The pain of facing the truth can be an invitation to reevaluate what you truly value in your relationships and in yourself. Challenge yourself to learn from these difficult situations and transform the pain into strength. Share in the comments how you deal with these situations and what you've learned from them. If this story touched you in some way, also check out the video that's appearing on your screen now. In my opinion, this is one of the best stories I've ever told. If you liked the one you just heard, you'll undoubtedly love this other story as well. So subscribe to the channel, click on the video that's on your screen now, and I'll see you in a few seconds.